on your first tank. That's code MILE.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant or buying that new outfit from a local boutique. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local businesses. Seashore Gardens Living Center, Galloway, enriching elder lives in South Jersey for more than a century. Online at seashoregardens.org. Filling Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. FillingMarble.com. Piccolilli Inn on Route 206 in Shamong, home of South Jersey's best wings. Absecon Veterinary Hospital, open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And at abseconvet.com. McAllister, the service company for all your cooling and heating needs. Call 800-757-4122 or visit mcservice.com. Perfect Basement. Schedule a free inspection at perfectbasement.com. First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape May County's community bank. Thank you for supporting your local businesses from Town Square Media, South Jersey.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
and
Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square Media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
On a Hump Day Wednesday, I did not expect to be talking about another quarterback trade and another big move, but apparently the NFL has decided that the week before the NCAA tournament will be the time that we make these deals. Josh Hennig here, hanging out with you in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN. If you haven't heard, Carson Wentz has a new home, and it's the NFC East in Washington. The Washington Commanders, formerly the Washington football team, formerly the Washington Redskins, now have another new quarterback, and his name is Carson Wentz. And this is now the third different second overall pick that Washington has brought into their franchise in the last 13 years. Donovan McNabb, former Eagles quarterback. Eagles traded in Washington years ago. RG3, second overall pick, was a Washington quarterback. And now Carson Wentz. You know, I was just saying yesterday, I'm going to be interested to see what Washington does this offseason because they need a quarterback. I just didn't think it'd be Carson Wentz. But nobody else did either. And now you're reading the stories coming out of India. I still have to finish the Athletic article, but some of the details in that article about Wentz's relationship with other people, his pushback on learning and getting better. And I mean, the guy is just coming off as so disconnected from reality. And I'm really believing that at the end of the season, when he had his his end of year meeting with the GM, that he must have said some things that really turned Chris Ballard off, because Ballard has been seen to be very negative about Wentz for a few months now, since the season ended. So Wentz is now back in the NFC East. Well, one, it brings some actual intrigue to the Washington matchup each year, because frankly, if you look at the NFC East, Washington's a rival, but they're a rival in proximity. They're not a rival in great history. It's not like there's a bunch of amazing games that have happened between the Eagles and Washington. Like, off the top of my head, it's the Michael Vick game, the Wentz Week 17 first week game. There's not a ton of games where you're like, man, let me tell you about that Washington game. In part because of the fact that both organizations have rarely been good at the same time. When Joe Gibbs was dominating in the 80s, the Eagles really weren't that good. And then Buddy Ryan came along and couldn't win a playoff game. So by the time Andy Reid got to Philadelphia in 99 and dominated the NFC East in the 2000s, Washington was a dumpster fire. The 1 year Washington is good with RG3, was near the end of the Andy Reid era. Kirk Cousins had a few good years for Washington, but I looked up earlier. Washington hasn't won 9 games in a year since, what is it, 2015? 7 wins, 8 wins, 7. I mean, they are the poster child for mediocrity. It's ridiculous. So this finally gives the Eagles-Washington game juice. And you know, the NFL schedule makers are licking their lips. One of these Washington-Philadelphia games is going to be a prime timer. Whether it's a Thursday night, whether it's a Sunday night, whether it's a Monday night doubleheader, whatever it is, I feel confident in saying one of those games is going to be a prime timer. Think about all the storylines all week. Wentz versus his former team. Wentz's great record against the NFC East. The problem with that NFC East record is those games were against Washington. Now he has to go against the Eagles. So, different animal altogether. To me, the bigger topic with all this, though, is that the NFL is basically telling you that teams are more desperate to get quarterbacks than ever before. We are at the point where they were the Washington football team. Now they're the Washington Commanders. They're turning around and they're saying that we'll give up a 3rd-round pick this year, a 3rd-round pick next year that could turn into a 2nd-round pick, and a pick swap in the 2nd round for a guy who couldn't even get to the postseason this year on a team that probably should have been in the postseason. That's how desperate Washington was to find a quarterback upgrade. This is the same organization that after they lost Kirk Cousins in free agency, they brought in Alex Smith, and then Alex Smith got injured. And then they went through this, revolving door of quarterbacks. Think about all the crazy guys who have been through Washington, from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Taylor Heineke to Kyle Allen. I remember correctly, did Mark Sanchez have a cup of coffee in Washington at one point as well? So they're hoping that Wentz at least stabilizes a position short term. I also have to wonder, does Washington look at the draft and say this is not a great draft for quarterbacks? If Wentz can keep us above water for at least a year, we can get to the 2023 draft. Because think about it. Washington still has their 1st and 2nd round picks in 2023. They gave up the picks mostly this year and only potentially one next year that could turn into a 2nd round pick. They didn't give up a 1st round pick. So if you're Washington, I got to wonder, are you looking at next year's draft and saying those quarterbacks are a lot more appealing than this year's draft? Now, for Indiana, man, Darius Leonard, he's got the tweet of the day. Darius Leonard, their star linebacker out there in Indianapolis. He put out the tweet himself. He said, quote, "Here we go again, about to be 5 years with the Colts and 5 different quarterbacks." He's on to say, "Thank you, Carson, for everything this year, my guy. Wish you nothing but the best." Even the players are like, man, we can't get a quarterback. First it was Andrew Luck, and then Luck's injuries built up and he retired, right? Then they had the year with Jacoby Brissett, and they bring in Phillip Rivers. He retires. They bring in Wentz thinking, hopefully this guy can stabilize us. Him and Frank Reich work together. Now they're on the quarterback number 6. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane how you have a franchise that's been to the postseason. It's not like the Colts or the Jags. They've had one postseason appearance in a 10-year period. They've been to the playoffs. It's not like they're a bad franchise, a bad football team. Here's what they have done since they drafted Andrew Luck and they hired Chuck Pagano back in 2012. They lost in the wild card, then they lost in the division round, then they lost in the conference finals. Then they had 2 straight 8-8 years, and then the injuries with Andrew Luck started building up. Pagano's last year, they went 4-12. That's when they had the high pick, and they got Quentin Nelson. Frank Reich comes back. Andrew Luck comes in, back, boom, divisional round. Next year, 7-9. Luck basically retires. Jacoby Brissett tries to keep him above water. Phillip Rivers, losing the wild card round to Buffalo, he retires. Bring in Carson Wentz. I mean, talk about instability. Talk about not being able to figure out what to do with your franchise. If you're Frank Reich, if you're Chris Ballard, if you're the owner Jim Irsay, you guys got to have some tough conversations about what you're going to do moving forward, because Wentz was supposed to be the guy that stabilized your position. And now you have no idea. So this really turns into a lot of questions for two franchises. And it's going to be interesting moving forward. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. You can text in at 609-403-0973. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. The other NFL news about that it actually does impact the Eagles more directly is you now have 2 linebackers who are on the open market. And I'm curious to see if the Eagles try to get either one. Former Eagle linebacker Jordan Hicks. Okay? He was released by the Cardinals. Apparently the Cardinals' reasoning, according to reports, is we're trying to get more playing time for the younger players. All right, I mean, but Jordan Hicks has played well for them. The problem for Hicks in Philadelphia was he couldn't stay healthy. Do you take the chance and try to say, bring you back, see what you have left to take? I mean, it's not like Jordan Hicks is old. This is a guy who, remember, he was productive in Philadelphia before he got injured. And he goes to Arizona, has a few productive years. They let him go. He turns 30 this summer. So maybe you can say the age is against him. There's another linebacker out there who is also getting up there in age. Bobby Wagner was released. He turns 32. Now, my concern about Hicks and Wagner is less about their age and about scheme fit. Does the Eagles' defense make sense for those two players? I would say it makes more sense for Hicks than it does for Wagner. I think Wagner is a more downhill kind of guy at this point in his career. And I think Hicks still can do the sideline to sideline thing. I mean, either guy is bringing a ton of experience and a ton of pedigree to the roster. And considering you had a team that was depending on Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton last year, both guys, either one of them would be a very interesting upgrade. But if you asked me which one you're going with, I probably lean toward Hicks. Because like I said, Hicks still has shown that ability to be a very special athlete. The problem with Wagner is I don't know what he has left in the tank as much as being a high-level player. But I think Wagner is still a good player. I think he can still start in this league. But is he going to want a lot of money? I mean, the guy has had what people might consider a Hall of Fame career. The guy's a 6-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. But when you look at his numbers, it's not like he has regressed. But he is a tackling machine. He's a guy who comes downhill, gets a lot of tackles. He's not, at this point in his career, a great guy in coverage. He's good, but he's not. Is he really that much better than Alex Singleton, for example, right? Whereas Jordan Hicks, I think Hicks is more built to be a guy who can at least impact you and be a better coverage linebacker than Wagner is. Now, Hicks doesn't have the resume and the accolades and potentially being a future Hall of Famer. But what Hicks does have is that he showed you in his career he can defend the pass, he can get the interceptions, he can get the passes defended, he can cover space, and he showed you now for 3 straight years in Arizona that he can be healthy, he can play the majority of the games. He's played every game every of the last 3 years. So it seems like the injury issues are behind him. And I think that he would make sense for the Eagles defense moving forward. I don't think you get both Hicks and Wagner in free agency. So that's why I'm saying one or the other. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We'll get you more of your thoughts and comments a little bit later in the hour. The text board is open, 609-403-0973. You can text in at 609-403-0973, or you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. Quick break here. Coming up on the other side, I'll talk with Dave Weinberg for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey, run up. Tyrese sidesteps the head, twists off the board with a right hand, reverse and good.
The Sixers host the Brooklyn Nets. Coverage begins at 7:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
With basketball season in full swing and UFC every weekend, it's time for you to experience sports betting done right at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Atlantic City Casino and Resort. Get in on all the games you love at the FanDuel Sportsbook located right off the Atlantic City Boardwalk. The retail sportsbook features 5 betting windows, a large video wall, 20 self-service betting kiosks, and much more. Get your game face on and score big when you bet with FanDuel Sportsbook only at Bally's Atlantic City Casino and Resort. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is a metaphor for your business's journey. Sometimes it feels like you're going 100 miles an hour, barely keeping up. But to cruise through challenges, you need someone who's right there with you. That's what Dell Technologies advisors do. They have the Windows PCs and tech advice you need to get past whatever's in front of you and get where you want to go. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL. A start to a simpler experience with Windows 11 Pro.
It's Truck Month, all month at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan. New trucks arriving every day and all month. Just because you don't see it on the lot doesn't mean you can't be driving it home tomorrow. $5,000 off Titans, or lease the all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier S 4x4 King Cab. Just $279 per month with 0 security deposit. Plus, AJ, the trade man, needs more trades. Get more for your trade and drive home a brand new Nissan with 0 down and pay 0% interest on every new Nissan in stock. And drive away with peace of mind, because only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle, 36-month, 10,000-mile pre-year lease, plus tax tag and $479 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $700 on average, and those savings add up. Imagine what you could buy in the future.
So I used the savings from switching to Progressive 30 years ago to buy tickets to the championship game. You know, between those two teams that didn't exist 30 years ago. Yeah, I'm a big Alaska Palm Trees fan. Which is a team now in the future?
So switch to Progressive and save big because those savings can add up in the future. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive in 2020. Potential savings will vary.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Keep the text coming in at 609-403-0973 on the text board to get on the conversation. 609-403-0973. We're also live with the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. You know, in a week that I thought the NFL would be kind of all right, kind of calm, nope, the NFL decided we're just going to go nuts. Everyone's getting traded. Everyone's getting released in the last couple of days. It's a wild time of year, so getting more into it right now is Dave Weinberg for another edition of Weinberg here.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Where are you at today?
Actually, I'm in Atlantic City, just grabbing a bite to eat before I head over to the MAC tournament. I wanted to check it out, so yeah.
Very nice. Well, I won't be there, so enjoy it for me, okay, tonight. So
I'll try. Thanks.
So, Dave, I don't know if you heard, because I feel like I don't know if anybody's heard about it, but some guy named Carson Wentz got traded today. Listen, I think this is a very interesting situation because you have a situation in Indianapolis where now 5 straight years, 5 different quarterbacks, and Washington basically seems so desperate they're willing to get a guy that Indianapolis didn't want.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by it. I mean, well, I guess I shouldn't be. I just didn't expect Indianapolis to give up on him after 1 year, but evidently, various factors prompted Chris Ballard and Frank Reich to make this decision. I guess they feel that he's not the quarterback going forward, and based on the way he performed at the end of the year, I guess I can't argue with them. But I'm like you; I think there were probably some undermining factors that worked there before they traded him. They caused them to trade him.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read through the full Athletic article, but I started reading it earlier, and the details of his relationships in Indianapolis sounds a lot like some of the chaos that was going in Philadelphia, where like he wasn't receptive to coaching. He was hard-headed. He wasn't getting along with certain people. And I got to believe, Dave, because, I heard Frank Reich do an interview about a month ago. He was very, hey, Carson's our guy.
Right.
But then Chris Ballard, the last 2 times he's talked, he's made it like we don't know who the quarterback is. I got to believe that when they had that exit interview, Wentz goes into Ballard's office, he must have said something to Ballard that just turned that guy off. Because even the owner was like, I'm out too.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. Just going to the exit interview was plus because he skipped this one in Philly. So, yeah, there's there's been a lot of talk about his background and him being coddled and all that stuff. But I don't necessarily buy into it. But I do know that the minute I met him and you spend a little bit of time around the locker room and the relationship, he seemed like he always struck me as kind of aloof. I guess he just never seemed to bond with guys. I mean, he was. He had his friends on the team. Zach Ertz was one, Dallas Goedert, Nick Foles even. But he never struck me as that guy that everybody's going to turn to, like Nick Foles, like they did in 2017 and in 2018. They never just like rallied around him. And I don't know if it's his personality, his background, or what. But that's a mistake you can't make if you're an NFL team, though. You got to know that going in before you make that pick.
David, I'm glad you said that because, I just have trouble wrapping my head around the fact that someone could be that, you use the word aloof. I used the word I used the term unable to relate earlier. Like you could be that lacking of self-awareness that you don't realize that you're part of the problem, that you are the reason why these things are happening to you. Like at some point, it's like Wentz doesn't get the fact that he's digging his own grave.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not going to get any better, certainly. I mean, Washington's pretty much his last opportunity to prove that he's that franchise NFL quarterback that the Eagles and the Colts thought that he was. I mean, the Commanders are taking a chance here, and it's going to be interesting to see if it pays out. Because if it pays off, because if it doesn't, then he's going to be known as one of those all-time busts in the NFL, like a Ryan Leaf kind of guy almost.
Well, first of all, kudos to you for getting Commanders on the first shot there. I mean,
There you
I'm still calling them the Washington football team over here, for goodness sake. So, but it's interesting because people have tried to bring up, Wentz's faith is part of the problem.
No.
Well, Nick Foles is a devout Christian. He almost became a pastor. He almost quit football and became a preacher. So I don't think Wentz's faith has anything to do with it. I just think he's that obtuse of an individual that he just doesn't get it. And I just got to look at him and I'm like, it's amazing that somebody, because he has talent, Dave. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year. So he doesn't stink. He's not this horrible quarterback.
Right.
But to be that mentally disconnected from the rest of the world, I just think it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it in Philly when Wentz got hurt. I guess it was 2018. And Chris Long built a shrine in his locker to Nick Foles.
Right.
And Fletcher Cox was the first one to light a candle. And everybody rallied around him. And that's just, Wentz never had that. I don't know why. I guess it's just his personality, the way he's wired. I don't know that growing up in Bismarck, North Dakota is necessarily a deterrent or had anything to do with it. But if it was, then shame on the Eagles, because you have the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. You got to check out every possible scenario, background, incident, opinions of players, teammates. And if they didn't do that, then really shame on them. But yeah, I mean, it was evident from the very beginning that Wentz wasn't going to fit in there. I don't know about Indianapolis. I mean, you would think he would, if he's going to fit in anywhere, it would be there.
Right.
Midwest, kind of laid back. But if you can't fit in there, then I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a problem in Washington as he changes his outlook on things.
Well, I know one thing about Washington. They love second overall picks, right? They traded years ago for Donovan McNabb. Now they traded for Carson Wentz. They picked RG3 second overall.
Yep.
I don't know what it is with Washington's second overall pick quarterback, but Washington at least now is juiced, right? At least you look at the Washington game and say, okay, we have something to look forward to, because I said before you came on, Dave, I feel like Washington is like the least juicy of the rivalries in the NFC East for the Eagles.
Oh yeah, definitely true. Yeah, I mean, Dallas and the Giants are definitely more of an intense rivalry. Washington's their rival is probably Dallas. I don't know, just going back to the 70s and stuff and the games they used to have. But yeah, I mean, Carson's going to be playing twice against the Eagles and once against the Colts, I think, this year as well. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how he's received when he gets to Lincoln Financial Field for the first time. I don't think it'll be quite as bad as Ben Simmons, but it might not be too pretty either.
Nothing will be as bad as Ben Simmons. And in fact, I think the only person who can understand what Ben Simmons is going to go through tomorrow night is JD Drew. I think it's the only guy. I mean, listen, you throw batteries at a guy, that's an all-timer right there.
Very true.
That was insane. Dave Weinberg joining me here on a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg 19. Extra point columns over at 97.3ESPN.com. Dave, big picture, though. I mean, this is the second straight day we've seen a quarterback traded. Yesterday was Russell Wilson. Today is Carson Wentz. And my first reaction to some of these deals is, man, the NFC's path to the Super Bowl just got a lot more wide open. I mean, Brady retires. Russell Wilson gets traded. I mean, I guess the second best quarterback is who? Matt Stafford at this point because he won a Super Bowl? To me, I look at the Eagles, and if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm like, all right, it's time to build this roster. I can take a shot in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay's got to be the favorite, obviously, I would think. But, and the Rams, of course. But after that, it's kind of wide open, especially the NFC East. There's really no standout team, clearly. I mean, the Eagles believe in Jalen Hurts, obviously. They've made that clear. They're going to give him at least one more opportunity. And if he can come through, I don't think he's got to be – he doesn't have to be all world beating. He just has to be good. And I think he's certainly capable of that. And if he can, then the Eagles have as pretty good a shot at winning that division as anybody, I would guess. I mean, Dallas probably is favored, but I don't think the Eagles are that far behind.
Well, Dallas got their own issues, Dave. I talked about
Yeah.
this last week and this week. They've literally admitted to saying, we are going to get rid of Amari Cooper because of his fat salary number, one of the more productive guys in our franchise's history, and we're going to keep Michael Gallup, who has been injured majority of his Cowboys career. Like, Dallas is in a weird, they got to pay Leighton Vander Esch. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Randy Gregory. I don't shoe in Dallas for anything because, one, Jerry Jones runs the organization, and two, because apparently they don't know what to do with their salary cap.
How do you think Carson's going to fare with Daniel Snyder in charge? That's going to be a circus. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's no clear-cut favorite. Everybody has their issues. I know this sounds really weird, but I'm not giving up on Daniel Jones just yet with the Giants. I still think that he's a pretty talented quarterback. If he can stay healthy and they can build that offensive line, I think they have some talent around him. I think they might be a kind of a surprise maybe this season. Although I've heard they were interested in Mitchell Trubisky. Why, I don't know. I guess it's like an insurance policy in case Jones gets hurt again or whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens going forward here.
Well,
one more thing about Wentz.
Yeah,
I think he really turned off a lot of people about his vaccination status. I think that his refusal to get vaccinated that caused a lot of ill will in that locker room, and it was kind of a selfish thing to do, to be honest with you. I mean, your team was depending on you, especially as a quarterback, and you're missing practices because you're not vaccinated and you test positive or you're come into contact with someone or whatever. But when you're the starting quarterback of an NFL team, you just can't do that. You can't have that kind of attitude. I don't care what your beliefs are.
Well, the problem with Wentz to me is the way he handled it.
Yeah.
You know, when he got up and talked to the media about it,
it's a personal issue. Yeah.
I mean, he came off as just such an imbecile. Like, he came off as somebody who just doesn't understand what's even coming out of his mouth. It's like the brain and the mouth were disconnected. Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and hate on somebody if there's a medical issue or there's a religious issue. That's fine. But when he got up there and his explanation for it was just so bad, like Wentz's explanation made Aaron Rodgers' explanation look like it's great. Like, Rodgers compared to Wentz looks like a prince. Wentz was just so tone deaf. Like, every time he answered a question at that press conference, I'm just like, dude, you're digging yourself a deeper hole. You're burying yourself 14 feet below the surface.
Yeah, Rodgers just struck me as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with his explanation. I mean, he was just so far out there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Wentz just, he couldn't have handled it any worse.
So, Dave, I want to ask you about some of the free agents because I think the Eagles, they have salary cap. We know Howie loves to spend money. The Eagles have a history. You covered the Eagles for a long time. Jeffrey Lurie's unafraid to spend money in free agency, for better or for worse.
Right.
So I want to throw some names at you of guys who I know the Eagle fan out there is, thinking about. There are two linebackers cut today. One of them is Bobby Wagner. Do you have interest?
You'd be crazy not to. I mean, 8-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro, 10-year veteran. I'm curious as to why Seattle's not bringing him back. Maybe they think he's lost a step or something. I don't know, but he seems like he's a really high-level guy, and as long as it doesn't cost too much, I would definitely have interest in him. Yes, he'd be a strong force in the locker room, not to mention on the field. I mean, one of those veteran leaders that he could always rely on.
Absolutely. It seems like the reason why Seattle cut him was for money reasons. It seemed like it was a salary cap casualty kind of thing. And you know how it is. A franchise goes in the rebuild mode. They just start, cleaning out the cupboard, moving on from guys, whether it makes sense or not. Yep. I mean, look at the Eagles. They got rid of Dawkins too early. So,
yep, absolutely.
I mean, listen, any Eagle fan with half a brain knows that, that was a mistake by the Eagles.
Absolutely.
What about Jordan Hicks? He had a couple of productive years. He actually stayed healthy in Arizona the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Jordan would be that interested in coming back. I mean, he seemed to have a lot of the guys that he played with aren't there anymore. Right. And he just always struck me as somebody that kind of needed that change of scenery. that he really wasn't that adverse to going to Arizona. I thought he kind of liked it out there. I'm surprised he's not staying there as well. But he's a playmaker. I mean, he's a very versatile guy, and when he's healthy, he's very good. But I don't know that he would have that much interest in coming back to Philly. I could be wrong, but I just that's the feeling I got.
If the price is reasonable, are you going to get Amari Cooper?
Yeah. Yes. The Eagles have no one that, I guess Devontae Smith, but other than that, I mean, they need a number 2 guy. They need a guy who can, really carry the offense when Devontae Smith can't. And Cooper, again, if he's healthy and focused, I think he's better than anybody else out there, I think.
What about Allen Robinson, the former Bears receiver?
Same. I mean, there's a group of guys that are veteran receivers that aren't, all world beaters, but they're good. And the Eagles can do far worse than that. I mean, like we've talked about before, they need a veteran guy who can take over that wide receiver room, like show the guys the ropes on and off the field. We've talked about, Greg Ward being around for a while, but I don't really think he's that guy.
Right.
So, yeah, somebody like that would definitely be a good fit, I think.
See, my guy, I really want Allen Robinson. I'm a little selfish. I'm a little biased because, to me, you had your most productive seasons with Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky throwing you the ball.
Yeah.
To me, that tells me that guy is special. You know what I mean? That guy, like, no offense to Amari Cooper, you had Derek Carr and Dak Prescott. Those guys are infinitely better than Bortles and Trubisky.
That's true.
So,
Yep,
and I'm not anti-Amari Cooper. I would be happy if he came to Philadelphia. But to me, Allen Robinson, he's from Penn State. He's that 6'3", big body receiver. And now you put him on the outside, you could basically turn Devonta Smith into the Eagles version of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. I'm just curious, is DK Metcalf happy in Seattle?
That's a good question. We haven't heard from DK since the trade happened. So I don't know if that means he's happy or not. I mean, in today's social media world, yesterday Kyler Murray put all of his Cardinal stuff back up on his Instagram. So, who knows? Who knows what's going on with these guys? I guess Kyler Murray decided that Russell Wilson wasn't in the division anymore. And since he's now probably the second best quarterback.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I'm just wondering if DK is going to follow Russell out to Denver, or if he's available, then I throw the kitchen sink to get him.
Yeah, my only problem with DK is I'm assuming he's either on I got to double check, but I'm assuming he's either on a fat contract right now or he's going to be on a fat contract.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
It's like, I don't know how that fits in with the rest of this situation.
Right. I got you.
There's speculation out there that because Dave Caldwell is now advising Howie Roseman, that the Eagles may go after DJ Chark, the former Jags wide receiver. Are you interested?
Nah. No. I just think there's better guys out there.
Does the injury history bother you with him?
Yeah, it does, and I just don't think he's that good. I don't think that's a guy that you would add to uplift your receiving core necessarily. He's probably better than what they have with, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor and whoever else you want to throw out there. You can't have Quez Watkins as your number 2, that's for sure. And maybe he would be that, but I think he can do better.
Let's flip over to defense before I let you go, Dave. Couple guys. First of all, I think the Eagles have to go get some veteran guys in the secondary. I think that's you can't argue about that to me. I think that if they don't come out with some legitimate people in free agency, I think Howie Roseman should be embarrassed. That's just my opinion.
Safety, I would agree with you there. At corner, I think you could probably get a good one in the draft. I don't know, but yeah.
I think you should do both. I think you should get a veteran and a guy. Don't depend on, because one of my problems, Dave, is that Steve Nelson was so late in the process last year. Remember?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you really want to go through that all over again?
That's true. Yep, very true.
Couple guys who are interesting out there. Mike Hughes used to play in Kansas City. You have any interest?
Sure. I'm with you there. I think if you can upgrade in free agency, you should do it. And I think it'd be a nice addition to the secondary. Yeah, sure. I'd be interested. Yeah. I'd be interested in anybody at this point. Is Leo Shepard still available? I don't know.
Well, the last time I talked to Brandon Boykin, he was disappointed that Howie didn't call him a couple years ago when they had all those injuries.
Yeah, I got you.
Couple older guys who are available out there. Joe Hayden is 33. Patrick Peterson is 32. Any interest?
Well, I've always been a big Patrick Peterson fan, but I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. It seemed like he kind of faded down the stretch last season. Joe Hayden, probably not. I mean, he was good in the day, but I think his day might be gone. If it was between those two, I guess I would lean toward Peterson in hopes that he still has a little bit left.
Well, it's interesting you asked about safety because there is one big safety out there that I guarantee you every Eagle fan would lose their mind if they were able to get this guy. And I would say this is the best safety since Malcolm Jenkins, hands down. Tyrann Mathieu is a free agent.
I guess I'm not as big a fan of his as like some other people.
But you know how Eagle fans are, Dave.
Yeah, they would probably love it. Yeah.
Honey Badger's got the nickname.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stuff. You know how they are.
Yeah, they would probably anoint him as the Pro Bowl second coming of Malcolm Jenkins or Brian Dawkins or what have you. Yeah. I'd have to see what the price is before I would go. I'm not ever paying for him.
Well, there is a former Saints safety who is a free agent. Marcus Williams is a free agent, and we know New Orleans is in cap hell right now. So maybe the Eagles could steal him from New Orleans, kind of repeat a decade ago.
Possibility, yeah. I mean, you screwed up by letting Malcolm Jenkins go, so maybe you can fix the error. I don't know. That's a possibility, I guess, yeah.
Do you have any interest in bringing back Rodney McLeod at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Not for a boatload of money, but, coming off an injury, he played pretty well last year, I thought. I mean, not great, but I thought he was solid. He clearly likes Philadelphia, and Philadelphia likes him. He's one of those understated guys that probably doesn't get a lot of credit for the little things that he does, as far as calling defensive signals and that kind of stuff, making sure everybody's in the right position. So you can do. I mean, if you want to bring somebody back who's reliable and that you bring some stability to that secondary, then Rodney would definitely be a good pick.
Well, as long as the guy they sign in free agency is not Jabril Peppers, I'll be okay with it. So.
New Jersey guy though, isn't he?
Yeah, North Jersey guy. Jersey guy. So my problem with Peppers is I feel like he's more of a gimmick at this point than an actual safety.
I got you. I
at this
understand,
point.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah, I got you.
Dave Weinberg here for a Weinberg Wednesday at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. Extra point columns at 973ESPN.com. Dave, enjoy the Mac. And when we talk again next week, I'm sure there's going to be more NFL news for us to react to.
I wouldn't be surprised. Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We'll get back to the text board. You can tell me if any of the names I threw out at Dave interest you. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
Wake up with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
This is the easiest the game has looked for Joel Embiid his entire career. All he is doing is making reads. This is kind of like similar to watching Joel Embiid when he was at Kansas, right? Like he was a man among kids.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Listen weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
South Jersey Advanced Health Solutions, South Jersey's premier clinic for allergy elimination and Lyme disease, effective treatment of chronic mold and all food and environmental allergies, and the only clinic in New Jersey to fully treat the red meat allergy known as alpha-gal, specializing in allergy elimination, Lyme disease, fertility, autoimmune disorders, adult and childhood ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, insomnia, headaches, and all types of pain. Contact them today, 856-285-4788 to start feeling better, or visit them online at sjadvancedhealth.com.
O'Reilly.
If your vehicle vehicle squeals or grinds when you slow down or just isn't stopping like it used to, you may need new brake rotors and pads. Now through May 24th at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 15% off a set of Brake Best Select or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors. Restore safe braking and save money now at O'Reilly Auto Parts or order online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
March is for nets and bets. Place your college basketball bets at DraftKings Sportsbook at Resorts Casino Hotel. DraftKings Sportsbook is the ultimate sports betting experience with massive ultra-high-definition TVs, 18 betting kiosks, and great game day drink specials. From prop bets to live in-game betting, DraftKings Sportsbook has it all. Voted 2021 Best Overall Sportsbook. Call ahead for VIP reservations. Visit resortsac.com for more information. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
20,000 bonus points, 18.99% variable APR, and a $32 statement credit when you spend $200 before your dog's 8th birthday.
Credit card ads have all sorts of numbers, but they mean nothing to you if you don't get approved. So here's Credit Karma's number, 66. Like members who shop on Credit Karma get approved 66% more often than the national average. Now that's a number you can rely on. Credit Karma. Applied with Karma Confidence.
Member approval rates in 2021, 66% higher than 2020 CFPB national average.
The NFL football season is over, and the winter of 2022 is coming to a close. We are rapidly moving toward 2 long-awaited dates. One, after February 26th, there are only 3 Saturdays left until spring, and on March 13th, we move our clocks ahead. Hi, Tom McAllister from McAllister the Service Company. These are annual milestones that set us on a path towards warmer weather and those hot summer days. Remember the end of last summer when you decided to put off upgrading your older, inefficient air conditioning system? Now's the perfect time to revisit that idea and take advantage of preseason discounts and also the rebates offered by the state and the utilities. Talk to the experts at McAllister at 609-927-4122 or at mcservice.com for all of your air conditioning and heating needs. McAllister, we cannot control the weather, but we can control your comfort.
Driving happy with Febreze car.
You're driving home when, oh no, you hit the longest red light in town. What's this? You're smiling because your car smells amazing. You just installed a Febreze car vent clip. Ha ha! 5 weeks ago, with up to 40 days of consistent Febreze scent, those lights can stay red for as long as they'd like.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Wait, aren't these all charitable donations?
At Magda's Tax Prep, every person counts.
I'd rather not have to file for an extension.
She needs new auditors to maximize returns on her family time.
On itemized deductions. Hey, can someone help with these 1099s?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Why is it that every March, everyone's either a basketball bracketologist expert or 100% Irish? Not that there's anything wrong with the two. All you need to know this March is at Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River. If you have a job clearing $350 per week, you could be approved with 0 down, 0.9% financing for 60 months, or $1,000 cash back at Matt Blatt Kia on every clearly marked new Kia in stock. Stuck in a loan or lease? Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. $1,705 per $1,000 for 60 months. $1,000 off all 2022 Stingers. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 4/6/2022. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night, final segment of the show on 97.3 ESPN. Tonight on 97.3, we have a ACC doubleheader, the ACC tournament going on. College basketball is nuts. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm going to have trouble keeping up because this is the time of year that it just feels like there's so many games and so many scenarios, so many situations. I mean, the story earlier today of, the Syracuse is just blowing out Florida State, and Boeheim's kid is out there hitting somebody in the stomach. Like, what the heck is going on in the world today? I don't get it. But tonight's games you could hear on 97.3 ESPN. First game is Clemson versus Virginia Tech, featuring South Jersey's own Justin Mutz playing for the Hokies. Tonight, 7 p.m. is the tip, followed by Louisville and Virginia. Hear both those games tonight, right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Get some of your guys' thoughts and comments over on the text board at 609-403-0973. That's 609-403-0973. Dan in EHT chimes in and says, if Washington goes 10-7, they win a playoff game, it doesn't matter what Wentz's personality is like. See, here's the thing, Dan. It's not about what Wentz's personality is like. It's the fact that this is now 2 straight organizations that he has had non-football problems in. And we're not talking about legal problems. We're talking about relationships. Relationships are so important. Trey Thomas was on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill yesterday. And I think most people would agree Trey Thomas is one of the best tackles to ever play in Eagles franchise history. And he explained that for him and other guys he's observed, it's so important that the guys who play together on the offensive line don't just get along, but have similar personalities, have similar mindsets, have similar just way of thinking. And in a football locker room, you need all 11 men on every play to do their job for you to be successful. It's not just about the quarterback. The offensive linemen have to work together. The wide receivers got to go on the snap properly. The running back's got to pick up his blocking, then go into the flat. There's so many moving parts on a football play that, one, if you're not on the same page with everybody else, that's a problem. 2, if you make a mistake or you do something wrong and you blame somebody else, you're going to be looked at sideways. Furthermore, in football, if the guy who's throwing the ball does not have the team and everyone behind him on the same page with him, that's a problem as well. Now, look, these are professionals. I'm not going to act like or suggest that there's a scenario where Carson Wentz ticks off his offensive line and they won't block for him or something like that. But maybe they don't block as intensely for him. Your Dave Weinberg mentioned it earlier. Those guys rallied around Nick Foles, right? Remember years ago with Kurt Warner, where Dick Vermeil says, we're going to rally around Kurt Warner and we're going to win games. If guys want to play for you, they're going to be in your corner. If they don't want to play for you, maybe they'll give you that little extra effort out there. So it's not about what Wentz's personality is like per se. It's how he gets along with people. It's if he can relate to people. If he's the kind of leader to take the bull by the horns and go all the way. And, I'm not going to sit here and play along with the game that Wentz's vaccination status had something to do with his relationship conflicts, because I don't believe that that's an issue at this point. I think it's how people handle their business, not what their business is, that matters. Wentz not getting vaccinated is much less important to me than how Wentz handles the media, how he handles his teammates, how he handles his coaches. It's suggested in this article from The Athletic that he fought coaches tooth and nail on certain fronts, that he was not receptive to criticism, that he was not open to getting better, basically. If you're going to be the guy who doesn't want to hear that this is why you made a mistake, this is why you need to get better, that's a problem. And this is now 2 straight organizations that Wentz is basically acting like a petulant child in the locker room with the coaches, with the organization. This has nothing to do with his vaccination status. This has nothing to do with his faith. And I don't know Carson Wentz personally, so I only can tell you what I have read and what I have heard. And everything I've read and heard is said that Wentz is obtuse. He's a bit of a know-it-all. He's hyper-competitive, but he is not open to admitting that he is wrong or he has made mistakes. There are things that he needs to work on. And it seems like he's the kind of guy who's more likely to point at somebody else than point at himself behind closed doors. It seems like he says the right thing in front of the media at times, but he's not saying the right thing behind closed doors. That's the problem with Wentz. All right, Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. We are about 24 hours away from the Sixers and Nets showdown tomorrow night. We'll get into that tomorrow all day on 97.3 ESPN and the latest news. Keep it tuned to 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN.com.